Hi everyone. I am going to try very hard to do this video with as much patience as I am capable of, because I have had one technological problem or issue after the other trying to make this video. This is maybe the 5th time I have tried to make this video on this card. This has just been in general going up my arse a mile. I am tired of it. So I'm going to try to do this gracefully, again with as much patience as possible, because I'm sick of talking about it. I want to be done. Welcome to the 19th or 20th video in the Major Arcana series. This is on the Sun, and we're going to talk about it again. Okay. So the Sun. I can't believe I am doing this. I'm going a little crazy here. Okay. The Sun is a deceptively simple card because it explains such basic divinatory meanings: success, freedom, easiness, egotism, basic. I mean, it is not a difficult card, as we all know, divinatorily speaking. But why does it mean what it means? That is the hard part. And I feel that the last 3 cards in particular, the main reason that I took so long to do these last videos, besides the fact that I just had problem after problem, is the fact that I don't think that Crowley explains them particularly well. I really don't. I think they are the most obscure in some ways, because they deal with ideas that are not well explained, and it drives me crazy, because of course I turn to this book for everything, or, any of his other writings. And I have scoured his other writings for better information about this stuff. And it is almost not there as far as what I have found. I'm sure I could look harder. But really, it's been very trying to find information about these ideas. And the idea of which I am talking, that really I have a hard time with, or have had a hard time with, is the idea of the twins. Now, I really hope that all of you right now are going, ah, yes, those damn twins, because they are never explained well. They are one time one thing, and then they're another thing the next, and it drives me crazy, because, I'm sorry, they should be consistent, and they never are. And it is incredibly frustrating trying to figure out what the heck they represent. I mean, obviously we know that they represent, one of them represents Harpocrates, or Horpokrat, who is the passive, childlike version of his twin, who is also a child, but Horus, or Ra-Hor-Khuit, who is a god of vengeance and war and destruction, and who is also supposedly the lord of the new Aeon for Thelema. For the world, in the perspective of Thelema, is what I meant to say. So this is fine and dandy, except neither of those ideas in and of themselves are particularly well explained. Harpocrates is explained far better than Ra-Hor-Khuit, but even that is very difficult for anyone to explain, because Harpocrates represents Keter, and Keter is ineffable, and Keter is a philosophical idea that is very difficult to talk about. So Harpocrates is one thing. Harpocrates is the god of silence, and again is associated with Keter for the most part. In the Book of the Law, Hadith, which also represents Keter essentially, basically says that thinking of Keter in terms of Harpocrates is not necessarily the best idea, especially in terms of worship, because Keter is not expressible. Keter is a point of view and is a perspective, and so therefore we must come to understand it through Chokhmah. And so when we're reading chapter 2 in the Book of the Law about Hadith, Hadith is really speaking from Chokhmah, because Keter doesn't speak at all, if that makes sense. Keter speaks through things. It's why we think of Mercury as a messenger and stuff like that. It is the exact same thing. A symbol for Hokmah is the serpent. The serpent is also a symbol for Hadit. It all makes sense when you think about it. Now, Rahur Kuit is not explained at all, in my opinion. It drives me crazy, again. Because Rahur Kuit, yes, we know that he is associated with Gabora for God knows what reason, other than the fact that he is a militant god and is a god of destruction. Fine, I get that, and it makes sense. But it seems to me that we must also remember the overt connection that he has to Tiferet. And at the same time, well, I was going to say something, and I decided to cut it based on something I previously said. It doesn't make sense now. But we must also remember that he is very much a part of Tiferet as well. And I will tell you why. Because, first of all, by saying that he is focused on Gabora is dangerous philosophically because it leaves him in kind of limbo as far as what he represents in relationship to man, in my opinion. Whereas Tiferet directly shows that Rahur Kuit is essentially the highest aspect of man in general, because he is the Lord of the Aeon and is therefore meant to have more global implications. It is essentially, in one way, it is man's developing relationship with his holy guardian angel. Each of our subjective holy guardian angels, or our daemons, our higher geniuses, but it is also an expression of our highest godlike selves, which is unsettling based on what the third chapter of the Book of the Law actually says. It is not pretty, as those of you who have read it know. It is a very aggressive chapter and is violent and sometimes even nauseating. And so it is not easy, especially when you're coming at it from a Judeo-Christian background. It is not meant to be digested easily, I don't believe. Now, the justification that I have for associating him with Tiferet, other than the fact that his first name is Ra, which of course is the Egyptian god of the sun, but also this very telling part in the back of this book, the Vital Triads, which is not talked about enough, in my opinion. I really want to do a whole blog post or book chapter or something on the Vital Triads, because really, I have never heard them referenced in any other book, any other blog site. No one ever talks about the Vital Triads. And, as their name implies, they are vital. They are vital. They are clearly here. They are the last thing in the book. They are clearly important for whatever reason, because essentially, in this chart, Crowley sums up the relationships between trumps and what they represent philosophically. So it is incredibly important that you know your Vital Triads and why they are triads with each other. But the point is that on the section, the children Horus and Horpa-Kra'at, which are the twins, which have been driving me crazy, we are told that number 6, the lovers, is the twins emerging. Now, the lovers is the path between Binah, the mother of the twins, and Tiferet. Tiferet, there it is. Now, the other thing, too, is that number 19, the sun, represents the twins playing. The sun is solar, whereas Tiferet is also solar and is not martial. Now, okay, in this case we are also told number 16, the tower, which does represent the planet Mars, it does represent the crowned and conquering child emerging from the womb, as in, I believe this is supposed to say Aleph. It says ALP. I would assume that it represents Aleph, which is, of course, the fool, which makes that whole sentence very confusing. Now, so again, yes, it is important to see Ra Horkuit as having a Mars-like energy and personality. Absolutely, there is no avoiding that. I mean, clearly Ra Horkuit is a Mars-like god. But here is the kicker, because in the bottom section for the category of the lingam, the yoni, and the stele, or priest, priestess, and ceremony, we are told that number 20, the aeon, which, as you remember, looks like this, the aeon represents God and man as twins from Nuit and Hadit. Bing, 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 bing. So that is what the twins are. The twins represent God versus man. And that they are twins. And what represents man better than anything else? Tiferet. Tiferet is the highest level of human consciousness. Not general consciousness, which is Keter, and which is divine, and which is God, or Hippocrates, but human consciousness is Tiferet. Tiferet. And so I cannot say it any better. That is an incredibly important thing. At least for me. I don't know if I'm exaggerating the importance of all this, but for me, this is a big revelation. This clears up a lot of information, or a lot of things that are not explained well for me, and I think it is incredibly important in terms of explaining Thelemic philosophy. I mean, he gives it to you right there, and, you know, when you go online and type in the twins, Thelema, or anything like that, you don't come up with much, and it's frustrating to me, mainly because the answer is, as always, as it always is in regards to this deck, the answer is always in this book, or in the Book of the Law. Those are your two primary sources for this deck if you are going to use this deck. If you are, some of you, I often get asked, what is the best advice you can give me for using this deck? My advice to you is read those two books many, many times. I sometimes I walk around with this book. This is the equivalent to my Bible, essentially, which I also read very faithfully. Now, there you go. I mean, so that is my advice to those of you. And 3 times is not many times. 3 times is not enough. Read it over and over and over again. You don't have to read it cover to cover. Honestly, sometimes I just open it up, flip to a page, and just read. I pick a card that I've been thinking about, and I reread it. It is incredibly important, because every time you return to this book, I promise you, you will take something new away from it that will be as relevant as the other loads of information that you got from it the first few times that you read it. Trust me. Same thing with the Book of the Law. The Book of the Law takes multiple reads. I don't care what that comment says about reading it one time. I'll be very honest with you, it's full of shit. You need to read it more than once if you're going to be responsible about it. Okay? No, I do not belong to a lodge or anything like that, and so I do not have anyone looming over my head saying, you can't be saying that. That is my opinion, and that is what I believe is most responsible in regards to that book, because otherwise the book is incredibly dangerous. As Hadith says, there is a danger in me for the fools, blah, 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 blah. It talks about how basically the ignorance of man is what makes that book so dangerous, and it is the exact same thing as what I am saying now. Anywho, to return, I'm going to get off my pulpit, and I'm going to return to the card. So essentially, the idea expressed in this card is that, you know, by representing the path that connects Hod to Yesod, I'm getting really confused about what I have said in this video, so please bear with me, because I have recorded this so many times, and so I actually don't remember what I've been telling you in this version. But I hope that we talked about how Hod connects Yesod, and that Yesod is shaped, and how that is a power that we have, a creative power that we share with God, that essentially this card is essentially saying that our ability to use willpower to shape the world around us and create something in the world is a direct representation of our godliness and of our brotherhood with God. Okay, this is a big idea, and of course the major tenet of Thelema is that the best way of going about this is through magical training, ritual magic. Now, whether or not you want to go about that is up to you, because of course everyone is the master of their own temple, and so no one may access the Holy of Holies, this is all Crowley speech, without first understanding what their method is personally. So magic may not be good for you, or work for you rather, fine. But understand that you and I, we all have, because we all have a willpower, we all have this inherent ability to perform magic of any kind. Remember that magic is the science and art of creating change in the universe in conformity with the will. And so essentially what the sun is doing by connecting Hod to Yesod, it is saying that we are unified with God, who is the creator of all things and of all life. We are made unified with God through that ability and through our decision to use that ability for good, for goodness, and for our highest purpose, which is in Tiferet. Because, of course, anyone can practice magic. I mean, we do it all the time, simply by making decisions and choosing events to happen. That is magic. On whatever level, that is magic. And so, essentially, we must... It is not about doing it willy-nilly. It is about doing it with the responsibility and integrity of following one's pure and true will. For pure will unassuaged of purpose is altogether perfect. That is incredibly important. And there is no law other than do what thou wilt. And wilt must be considered not hedonism, but following true will, which is your purpose, which is your self, which is the life path. It is the destiny that you must follow, and you cannot say no to it. There is no escaping it. And so essentially this is and of course we get the idea of conflation through the idea that we are also told that not only does this card represent the twins playing, but the solar disk in the middle represents Heru Ra-Ha, which is the composite deity of Ra-Hor-Kruit and Hor-Pa-Kra'at. And this is a deity that returns in the universe. I don't know if I've said this already. But again, this card represents those two essences, those two ideas conflated and as one unit, God and man, not just as twins playing around and having a good time in the universe, which is a giant playground, which of course is a very humbling thought, but this is God and man as one thing, as one energy, as one creative force. This is very similar to the Magician card, which it is compared to often because of their numerology. But the sun is very similar to the Magician because it represents our ability to create as gods, and that this is a liberating thing, an incredibly liberating thing. We all have the tools for success. We all have the tools for happiness and for following our true will. It is whether or not we choose to take them up and use them properly that determines our success or impotence in life in general. So this is a very big card. This is a very important card, and there's a lot to this card that is greatly overlooked when you look at it from the weight perspective or from just the general divinatory perspective. There's so much to this card, ideologically speaking, that needs to be addressed if we're going to talk about it. So again, as always, I hope that you found this informative and helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. I like getting them. Excuse me. Sometimes I forget about them, honestly. I do have the intention of responding to them. If I do forget, or it seems like I've forgotten, please remind me. I'm sorry, I will try to get back to you, but I do forget. Anywho, thank you again for watching. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, all that YouTube mumbo jumbo that we are always asking you people to do. I apologize, but business is business. Sucks. Anywho, thank you again, and I will see you in the next video for number 20, the Aeon. Bye.